The first question that I wanted to ask was, many people will know you as the head honcho at Waracle, but probably will know little to nothing about your past endeavours. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you did before Waracle and potentially even what you studied prior to you sort of embarking upon your career.
Okay. How truthful do you want me to be?
As truthful as you feel comfortable being.
Well, okay. I mean, I grew up in the north of Fife and went to school in Dundee, and I left school, and my job immediately after school was postman. Wow. And I have to say, I loved being a postman. And part of the reason I loved being a postman was I delivered to my own house, and then at the end of my house was my girlfriend's house. And you know, and I was 16 or 17 at the time, and newly in love and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed that, you know, I did. And she moved off to Edinburgh, and I remember she moved away for a year, and I remember saying to my mum, right, I want to go and live with this girl in Edinburgh. I need to get into university. And it was about the August time, and my mum phoned up round the universities, and the only course I could get into was software engineering.
Wow, there you go.
So you know, it chose me rather than I chose software engineering. So, however, you know, so I did a degree in software engineering. I was most interested in what you would now call, it was at that point was called human-computer interaction, but now people talk about it as user experience and so on. So, you know, I developed quite an early interest in that, and then I actually did alarmingly well in that course for somebody that was only in it by accident. But I have to say, I wasn't a model student.
Yeah, you were in it for love.
Well, well, that was one aspect. But yeah, I always played football, you know, so I carried on playing football 2 or 3 times a week. And so I kind of split my time between football and college and love, as you said. And then I actually came back to Dundee to do a master's and a PhD in it was artificial intelligence to analyze gestures. You know, this is before you could make gestures, and it was quite interesting. You know, it was an interesting time. I did a lot of AI, you know, back in the sort of mid 90s, I think it was. But during that time, I was offered a job by NCR, which was part of AT&T at the time, and they had a graduate scheme, which is pretty impressive. And I was playing part-time football. So I took the job at NCR and AT&T and quit the PhD and carried on with the football.
Oh, goodness me. I didn't know you worked for NCR.
Yeah. So I worked there, and I started off as a programmer. I was a C Unix programmer, really. That was my thing. And then after about 2 or 3 years as a programmer, I became a network admin on the, you know, the Unix network, which I really liked, the Unix network. And then I went from there to the Windows network. And, you know, I remember my desk at the time, I had 4 or 5 monitors where I was monitoring the status of our global network and messaging system, you know, and I sat on the desk and looked at the world and was able to view it through, you know, it felt a bit like NASA at the time. And that's what I did for that. And then NCR sent me to do a customer facing job for Tesco Bank, actually, or Tesco Personal Finance as it was at the time. And I did that for a bit. And then I went back into their consulting division. So I consulted to their customers on large networks, Windows networks and Microsoft Exchange networks. I worked quite a lot of places, Redmond in America, all sorts of places. It was quite an interesting time. But again, I was getting sent around all over the place, and I didn't really like it because I was trying to sort of keep my football life going, and I found it quite a hindrance. So I decided to quit that job and start a business on my own with a colleague, which was, you know, we kept some of the NCR customers with their blessing, actually, because they couldn't support them anymore in Scotland. And we started up this business in Fife, and it was good going business. And during that time, actually, a friend from school, he was running a factory down in Fife, and he asked me to come and install a computer network for this factory. And so I went down and installed the computer network for them. And then I thought at the end of it, I'm going to walk out of here and I won't know whether it's working or not. But in my past life, I knew perfectly well how the corporate network was working because I had all these tools. And there was a funny little quirk of small business networks in that there were basically multiple identical copies of the same network, which isn't the same in the corporate network. So I set about building a tool which allowed me to monitor this network I'd just installed for these people who I really liked, actually. You know, it was out of, I felt obligated because I liked them to do it. And I used to remote into their system every day and go, you know, check their stuff was working. And then I thought, well, I'm going to automate that. And I realized that that was a sort of wider need. So I set a business up with my mate, Doug Wilson at the time, who was a much more commercial Canadian, North American guy working in Dundee at the time. And I think that was, I don't know, that'd be about 2004 or something, super early into SaaS, you know, way before most people into SaaS, monthly payments. And by 2013, that company was due to float on Wall Street. It was going to do an IPO, and you know, and I was by no means running it by this time. You know, although it was my baby, it had been bought over by American software firm, venture capital backed software firm, and I'd stuck around doing lots of really fascinating, interesting things. You know, we were quite acquisitive. We were the biggest in the world at our niche. We bought companies in Armenia, Belarus, Romania, America, all sorts of places, and quite a lot. I ran these new businesses into our business.
Wow.
So the one which I'll talk about later was a mobile device management bit of software, which we bought, I think, 2011. And that's where I sort of picked up on mobile being, you know, a great place to be. But at the time of the float, I thought, well, I just want to say that it started in my bedroom. And if my kids ever asked, hey, Dad, what do you do? I could say, well, I started this company, girls, and it went to public. And I just wanted to be able to say that. But I'd already been speaking to guys at Waracle who actually I played football with. And I basically said I was going to come there and help them with actually a software product they had rather than the service side of the business. And that's it, really. That's what I've done. And I've been at Waracle since 2014.
So you mentioned obviously that you kind of through football found Waracle, and I think that when you first got engaged with Waracle, the team was maybe 10 to 20 staff, probably no bigger than that. Was there anything that you saw in those initial conversations with the founders, Mike, and Dave, that gave you the confidence that had the potential to grow into what it is today as a 300+ person organization?
I mentioned earlier on that we'd bought this business, a mobile device management business, which we were running in our product. And, and I had to go around doing badly. I mean, I had conference speeches about this product line. So I did lots of these graphs which showed numbers going high and to the right, you know, about mobile penetration and how much that was going to eat the world. And I think that was the thing, you know, I spent my last year in that company touting this bit of the business around, you know, and I thought, I just kept looking at all these lines that showed lines are going high and to the right around mobile. And, you know, I knew my time was up in IT services. I was bored of that bit of the world and I needed something new and I needed something invigorating. So really the reason, I guess I invested in that line. You know, I thought, well, this is a line that's going up and to the right, so let's jump on it. And I guess the way I thought about it was, at the time, I remember doing this slide for somebody, and I said, well, I think PCs are now the heavy hammer, the 100-pound hammer. All young people at the time they will go to their mobile device first. And if they will try to achieve a task, a desire on their mobile device, and if they can't, they'll go to a sit-down machine, a PC. So I thought that at that point in time, you know, if you were a brand and you really wanted to capture lifetime value customers, young people, then the investments you had to make had to be around mobile. And, you know, I think that's probably still true today.
Yeah, and luckily it's kind of proven out that way. I suppose coming back to the idea of like singularity of focus, I remember, you know, a while back reading the 22 immutable laws of marketing. One of them is about line expansion. It's like, you know, beware line expansion. It's like, be known for one thing, even if you do lots of different things, be known for one thing. Do you think that is that, I mean, you know, there's probably a time where Waracle was kind of apps, web, marketing, IoT. It had like a broader kind of sort of remit per se outwardly to the market. Do you think that zoning in on mobile was the differentiator that helped growth in that early stage?
Well, That's a difficult question. I do know by nature I am an extremely narrow person. You know, in the previous company, you know, one of the things I did for a few years was run their digital marketing and inbound marketing, top of funnel. And, you know, and everything at that time was telling me, if you go to the market too wide, you're going to run out of money. You know, as a rule, when you're marketing on the internet, it is be king of a small hill first, because then you've got a chance of making your money stick. You know, and once you're king of a small hill, become king of a bigger hill. So I think that was just wired into me. And, you know, I know that you probably know this, but if you cut my head open, it's Excel. You know, it's Excel, this connects to that, connects to that, connects to that. So everything to me is a sort of like a funnel, and it's all about attrition between the different sort of stages. And really that focus, I think, just came from when we were a small previous company, not Waracle, we didn't have enough money to compete with the big guys. So we needed to do really smart stuff. So we had to be really, really cunning. And I think that's just altered my nature. So I am by nature now a really focused person in work, not in life.
I want to ask a question about Waracle. Waracle has always had a very distinct culture. Even when I didn't work for the organization, I was kind of an interested onlooker. And I think that culture sometimes can be defined by the environment within which it kind of grows. Do you think that being a remote business, as we predominantly are at the moment, with not many people in the office, is more difficult to get across the Waracle culture to new starts or people who are working remotely all across Europe?
Yes, it's really difficult. I mean, you know, like you said, Blair, you know, we used to have a really good sort of fun in-person culture. It was irreverent, you know, serious, you know, people did amazing work, but they had a good laugh. And actually, you know, I used to sit in the offices, and the one thing that I used to listen for was periods of work and then laughter. And when I heard people laughing, I thought, that's great. It made me feel good, you know, and so I used to like that. And it's not as much fun in this remote first environment. However, it's quite convenient for some people, and it fits better with their life, you know. So I do think that we've got to think long and hard, and we have, about how we can build a culture for the future which tries to get as much of the good points out of in-person working, and, you know, keep as much of the good points about, you know, much more flexible working. I think there's I worry about this, you know, there's a long-term effect of people working from home, in that when you're in the office, you see what's going on around you. Things are more transparent. You know, you might see there's a meeting about the expense policy, and if you feel really sufficiently compelled, you can burst in and say, this expense policy is crap. You know, but if you're not invited to that meeting now, you don't know it's going on. So things creep up on you. And I think, you know, the long-term effect of remote working is, so it's lesser transparency, and it's not deliberate. You know, it's just whether or not you're in that meeting at the time. And you know, there's a couple of podcasts that I listened to at the start which talked about asynchronous working and making things much more transparent.
Yeah.
And I think the companies that get that right will prosper in this new environment.
I mean, my reflection on it would be that as a generalist, you know, like I, post-university, spent kind of 7 years in the wilderness when I did everything from washing dishes to running club nights to, you know, food catering services to doing a chainsaw ticket and becoming a tree surgeon. And then, you know, even in my last 10 years, I've worked in data teams and marketing teams and product teams and the like. And the thing is that I benefit from as a generalist is exactly what you said, is being around other smart people and being sort of privy to the kind of thought process or the kind of approach of established experts in a particular field, because that's the stuff that excites me. I'm like, oh, okay, so now I understand how that person would approach that problem in that particular scenario. And so whilst, you know, it's amazing for me to be able to take my girls to school and then roll into the spare bedroom, there's an aspect of like, I suppose my own personal development I feel like isn't being rewarded in the remote atmosphere.
And I think that's, you know, that's the same for every company. And, you know, I have to say that I'm not a natural extrovert. You know, I quite like working on my own. I like to go for a walk on my own. I like to think about stuff slowly because I can't think that quickly. And you know, after a few, I can't remember how long, but I went into the office and I didn't wake up in the morning thinking I'm going to go in the office and meet people. But by 3 o'clock when I was going home, you know, to pick the girls up, I thought, that was amazing. You know, speaking to all those people, and we had a good laugh. And I think, you know, there's a thing which is under talked about in business, which is just energy. You know, people transfer energy to each other. And when you're working at home, you know, I look at it quite simply, and it's probably a crap metaphor, but, you know, social interactions, even though I don't particularly think I look forward to them, they put energy in my cup. Yeah. And then I spend the energy in my cup doing work. And in this remote environment, I worry that there's not enough energy going in the top for all the energy people are putting out. So my overall take on it is people are quite depleted in energy terms through this last 2 years. And, you know, energy is a really important concept, and it sounds a bit hippy dippy, but I think it's true.
I'm totally on board. I couldn't be any more on board. No, I'm absolutely of the view that, like, you know, that wherever you get your energy from, if it is taking yourself into the woods for a bit, or if it is being around other people, like, you have to spend a bit of time making sure that you've got the stores and sort of that, you know, inclination that people have had during lockdown to just work longer and longer because there's nothing else that they really feel like they want to be doing, or potentially have something that's, you know, picking up their attention, whether it's a hobby or whether there's something else going on in their lives. You need to make time for yourself to definitely fill that cup back up. So I'm going to close out with a thank you for making time in your busy schedule to accommodate me, but then two, a little either or quiz. So I'm going to give you one thing or the other, and you just got to choose one of the two. Got like 10 or 12 of them. I'll spin through them pretty quickly, and hopefully it won't do much to your kind of character or rep.
Is this not, what's that game, Cards Against Humanity or something?
Oh no, nothing like that. I mean, we could definitely get in a lot of trouble there. And from a corporate affairs point of view, we'd be in deep water. So yeah, I'm just going to give you a quick either or. You tell me which one. I'll move on to the next one. Okay. So Chris, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. iOS or Android?
iOS.
Mustang or VW camper van?
You know the answer.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Running or cycling?
Cycling.
Sales or marketing?
Marketing.
Karaoke or a dance class?
Karaoke.
Man bun or short back and sides?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Yeah, no, because normally I've got sensible hair, but the last 2 years I've grown a mullet. So I'm in both camps.
Mac or Windows?
Mac.
Bezos or Musk?
Neither.
Okay, space exploration or environmental preservation?
Environmental preservation.
Last one, voice or augmented reality?
AR.
There we go, controversial. Well, listen, thank you to everyone who joined us today. It's been so much fun chatting to Chris. Obviously, if you are outside of the Waracle business and want to get in touch with us, you'll find us at waracle.com or on our social, which is either Waracle or Waracle UK. It just remains for me to thank Chris. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Blair. And you sounded like a radio host there. That's tremendous. You know, and
working on it.
In case there's any Waracle folks on here, well, firstly, thank you for persuading me out in public. I'm not a keen public speaker. And, you know, I know I say this every single meeting we have, but I always want to say to the Waracle folks, without me bursting into tears or anything, you know, that I'm so proud of what we've done over the last year. It's been tough. It's been really tough, but they've really smacked it out of the park.